everyone, and welcome back. We got another great episode of the Good Work Show.
We're back home.
Oh yeah. So I was like, what? I was at home already. I know what you mean. The last recording, we were in the office. Yes.
Right.
So now we are back home. We planned it better today, I guess, or differently. We're just gonna say we planned it
differently. I'm looking. It's funny because for the last couple of weeks, I haven't been sitting in this position, which focuses me out my doors to my back patio. Oh. And I'm like, when all of my hydrangeas bloomed.
You said they
bloomed. My hydrangeas bloomed. So I have like these big fluffy blooms on my hydrangeas. So that means I don't have to go to Trader Joe's and pay $3.99 for hydrangeas anymore. I can just go into the backyard and
grow your own. That's what I've been doing. You know, I became a farmer since the last time.
You have become and I'm kind of mad now because I said earlier this week when you had herbs that you had brought in, and I'm like, oh, I'm not cooking that this week. And then I defrosted a steak last night, and I'm like, dang, I could have used that rosemary.
Sure could have. Well, I got some more. I gotta figure out when I'm gonna cut the stuff back again, because I can cut it back and I'm sure it'll grow some more, but I'm still learning. So I didn't want to cut it back too far. And I was like, this stuff that might be the end.
Right.
So I don't know how fast the stuff grows because, well, it grew pretty fast. I grew it from plants, not seeds. So obviously it only took a couple weeks to go beyond where it was already, but I need to watch a few more YouTube videos before I'm more proficient. But yeah, the grow your own thing is just nice. My cilantro is not doing as well as I would like it to, but I use cilantro a lot. So it's just very convenient to go outside and like, oh, let me just get a couple of sprigs off of the thing where I need it versus buying the whole bunch from the grocery store. And then I use a few sprigs off of it, and then the bulk of it goes to waste because it don't last that long when you buy it from the grocery store versus, oh, it's just still growing, so I can just get what I need. And so yeah, it's been pretty fun so far. I think I might continue with it.
This is exciting. I mean, I'm looking at a bloom right now and I'm like, oh, that's why I'm leaning over so I can see it. I'm like, it's all big and fluffy and blue and pretty. So it looks like I'll have fresh hydrangeas in my house. Well, see, it's the same thing though. I'm like, I don't know where to cut them so that I'm gonna have to do a little.
Now, if it's like any of the other plants, they say you got to cut it right above where the leaf is growing.
Right. That's why I need to do a little bit of work.
Yeah, because then it'll grow back if it's like right above. And if you do it right below. My thing is, if you do it right below, there's gonna be another leaf down there anyway. So I'm like,
then it'll be short.
But I think you got to be right above the thing. That's how I've been cutting my stuff off.
Yeah, my plants, they're big and bushy and pretty. I'm gonna have to take a picture and send it to my grandma because she used to grow in her yard.
Oh, well, she probably knows where to cut them.
She probably does. Well, I don't know. I've never seen her cut them to bring them in the house. But I mean, like when you would drive into her house in the spring, like when we would go for Easter, I mean, the whole driveway was just full of these giant hydrangea. But I mean, they were as old as my mom remembered them when she was like a little girl. So they were, however old. But like, and hers would be in all different colors. She would have white and pink and blue. And I know that there's a way that you actually can. I think if you change something in the dirt, you can actually change the colors of your hydrangeas. But I'm not that advanced, nor am I going out there to dig around in the dirt. So I'm gonna just take what God gave me, which apparently.
Oh, they were already there when you moved in?
Yeah, they were here. There were two big plants.
I thought you planted them.
Oh no. No. They're mine because I paid for them.
Yeah.
But no, I did not do any work. I'm just enjoying.
It's not that hard. Now I'm telling you,
hydrangea are not difficult. My understanding is they're not difficult, but even easier are taking advantage of something that somebody else has already.
Yes, because it's already established at that point. So probably
they're huge.
Very easy to come back and everything.
They're nice too. They give me a little bit of privacy too because they've grown up over the. Whatever. Anyway, enough about my hydrangeas. I'm just very excited.
Yeah. Well, today, excited too. We got Second Helpings Atlanta on the show, and HG Groupmeyer, who is their Food Network and volunteer coordinator, is going to come on. And if you've been with us for a while, you might have remembered Second Helpings has been on, but it was before the pandemic, so we don't know when it was. It was pre it was pre-pandemic. Pre-COVID, so that doesn't really count. So we're gonna have them back because we got to catch up with them and see what they're doing. And it kind of tagging on. I mean, I know we did our Earth Day series last month, but this is a good one because they also focused on not
reducing food waste.
Food waste, yeah. So I mean, I know some of our Earth Day shows and partners were sort of on that sort of same wavelength, but I think this is kind of a good tie-in and to go into the next couple shows that we have. So this will be good.
Yeah, and timely. I mean, we keep hearing about inflation and
Yes.
raising costs, and I think the pandemic illuminated that there's a lot of very vulnerable people in our communities, and it also illuminated that there's a lot of people who want to and are willing to step up and help. So this is the perfect marriage, because their whole profile is built on people, volunteers helping. So let's get into it and hear from HG.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Good Work Show. As we said, we have got an organization that's been on with us for a while, it's been on a while back, like pre-pandemic. That's why I can't talk, because it was a long time ago. And we want to have them back because they do such great work, and what they do in our community is so important and so needed. So welcome to the show, HG Groupmeyer, who is the Food Network and Volunteer Coordinator. Welcome to the show, HG.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So like Food Network, the part on Food Network got me messed up because I was thinking Food Network, the channel. I knew that wasn't what it was, but I just really secretly in the back of my mind wanted to be like a celebrity chef. And
oh my gosh, me too. That would be great. I would love that plot for me. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're doing something that is so important and necessary. So first off, let's tell our audience about Second Helpings Atlanta, which is where you are affiliated, and just tell everybody about the work of the organization and the mission.
Yeah, so basically our mission at Second Helpings Atlanta is to reduce food waste and prevent hunger in the Atlanta area. So our service area kind of is basically centered in Metro Atlanta and then extends to counties beyond. But basically what we do is we're a connecting organization between our food donors and partner agencies. So our volunteers will drive to a grocery store. They will pick up a donation that is usually full of like excess food that the grocery store couldn't sell for whatever reason, or maybe they ordered too much of, or maybe, many reasons why something might end up in a donation. The people go and pick up that donation. They drive it to one of our partner agencies, which are all 501c3 nonprofits with feeding programs. So these feeding programs look different depending on the nonprofit. Some of these are maybe what you would consider to be like your very typical like homeless shelter kind of setup where people are being fed 3 meals a day out of a professional kitchen. Some of these are after school programs. Some of these are food pantries. It's just all different kinds of ways in which we can try to access the hunger need in our community and make sure that we can get the most healthy, fresh, and culturally relevant food to the people who need it in Atlanta.
This is so fun. So I know we talked to you guys, like Elaine said, a while ago. But the reason I was like, hey, we need to get them back on is because my dad, he's down in South Florida and does a very similar volunteer project every week. So he goes every Monday and does it. And I think it lines up probably with the 90-minute model program that you have. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I think what we want to dig in is to all the different ways that you guys are serving the community. So let's start with the 90-minute model and tell us about that program.
Yeah, so basically our 90-minute model is basically just how our Food Network manager, Kim Soltero, she is working to match food donors to partner agencies in a way that not only is the donation the appropriate size and the appropriate you know, a lot of our donations are pretty similar to one another, but sometimes our agencies have different needs for food. So sometimes agencies are looking for more like pre-prepared food that they can like stick in an oven and serve in an hour. Some of our agencies are looking for more produce. Some of our agencies are looking for more for grab and go items. And we do have different food donors that we know the donations are kind of one way or another from the food donor. And so she's matching up those food donors and those partner agencies in a way that not only is the partner agency getting the best donation for them, but also a volunteer can complete that route in under 90 minutes. So in the ideal world, you know, I always say in my orientations, Atlanta traffic is Atlanta traffic, you know, that I can control the world. But in an ideal world, most of our volunteers are able to drive to a food donor, pick up a donation, drive to a partner agency, drop off that donation, and return to their home in under 90 minutes.
That's great.
So that's basically what the 90-minute model serves to be.
That's one of the few things that I think are like that coordinated on time when you volunteer. I mean, sometimes you say, oh, I'm going to volunteer somewhere for an hour, and then that doesn't include like the time you got to check in and the time, you know, and you all have thought it all the way through, which I think is great for people who want to support but don't have a lot of time or need like maybe they got to pick up their kids or they got to do other things, and so knowing that they have that time frame sort of blocked off is actually really, really cool. You said something though earlier that piqued my interest in terms of how you all are collecting and donating the food, and you said to make sure that, you know, it's in the sort of the package, right? Whether it's fresh produce or whether it's, you know, pre-prepared. But then you said culturally relevant food. So I will tell me a little bit more about that part, because I think that's so interesting and something that a lot of people probably don't think about when they talk about, you know, serving meals, getting food to people who need it, who are food insecure, but making sure that it is relevant for the end user and the person who's actually going to be on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I honestly am not an expert on that. I'll definitely tell you that like people are scholars in this kind of thing and trying to make sure that we can feed everybody in the most appropriate way for their entire lives. But from my vantage point in our organization, what this usually means is just basically like trying to get people food both that they're going to enjoy, but also food that they're not going to throw away in the end, because part of Second Helping's mission is also to reduce food waste. So it somewhat doesn't make sense from a mission perspective to be like giving somebody like, I don't know, like we have, you know, in Atlanta in the summer, there's a lot of zucchini, but we hear from a lot of our partner agencies and a lot of our donors that a lot of our partner agencies that people don't know what to do with the zucchini. Like maybe they know how to like cut it up and fry it, but they don't really know anything else. And I'm actually from the South. I'm from Western North Carolina. And I definitely grew up like with a very specific kind of cultural palette that my mom and my dad were cooking for me, and I learned to cook from them. And so there's definitely items in the grocery store that I have never opened, never looked at. And I think that that's kind of like, you just have to put yourself in the position of somebody else and try to understand that like, you can't food isn't just food, and food isn't just like equally transferable wherever you are. And so as somebody who grew up eating like the foods in Western North Carolina, I'm not like allergic to seafood, but I do not like seafood because all the seafood I had when I was a kid was like in my head coming from the ocean, which was so far away to me. And so sometimes I think this is like a good metaphorical way to think about it. Like if you're receiving food because you're experiencing a moment of food insecurity, but all of that food is something that you've never eaten in your life, something that you don't like, something that's not relevant to you or your culture, then that you might as well not have gotten any food in the first place. You know, just because somebody is hungry doesn't mean that they have to sacrifice their dignity and sacrifice their humanity, which is part of this too, right? Like giving somebody food that they want to eat is part of respecting and honoring their humanity and their individual personhood. And just giving somebody like any food that is available and any food that is excess is dehumanizing in its own right, in my opinion. And before I worked at Second Helpings, I worked in the restaurant industry, and I'm somebody who has, you know, just deep emotional attachment to food. And I always want to make sure that my emotional attachment is like also clear to the people who are receiving food from Second Helpings, and that they don't feel like we're just dumping more of our problems on them, but that they're receiving something that they can really do something with, and something that they can feed their families and feel comfortable and confident doing so.
I think that's such a great point. I think about those, you know, for folks who are buying food. So like when you get those, you know, like the farmers market boxes that you can subscribe to, and you don't know what's coming because it's whatever comes out of the ground that week. And I
Mhm.
have heard people talk about like, I get this stuff and I don't know what to do with the rutabaga. It's
Mhm.
nice that I got it, but I don't know how to cook. I'm like, what do you do with this? And, you know, if you're not in a place of insecurity, you might have the time and the, you know, whatever to figure that out. But I do see the point. I think it's a really great point that you're giving people things that they are familiar with, that they know what to do with it. And it's actually helpful versus just becoming something else that is not helpful at a time of need. So I think that's really, I'm glad, Elaine, that you picked up on that, because that's a really good point. So you guys have a lot of other programs and things that you're doing. So you also have ways for organizations and corporations to tag in with you to be able to help. So how does that work? Because there may be some folks, you know, as people are going back to the office and looking for team building things and, you know, volunteer opportunities, how can teams and groups and organizations and corporations support your efforts?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that, probably the most direct way in which corporations can pursue our efforts is that they can sign up to come to our Meals with Meaning program. That is something that we have every week on a Wednesday morning, and we have a lot of corporate groups currently coming over the summer. So we're getting a little bit to the fuller point, but there's definitely still slots available. And this is really just a great experience for anybody who's looking to like bond with their corporate group, or people who are just looking to bond with their friends or their families or anything like that, any group of people. Because basically what this is just like a high energy packing style event. What happens is that HelloFresh has kindly offered to donate us enough healthy, fresh food to fill 2,000 meal kits. And these meal kits are then distributed into the community that exact afternoon. So when people come into Meals with Meaning on a Wednesday morning, it usually starts around 9 or 9:15. What they're going to be doing is standing on a line, kind of like I Love Lucy, pack and move style, where they're going to be putting like 2 sweet potatoes in a bag and then passing it to their friend, and they'll be putting 2 packets of sweet sour cream in a bag and then passing it to their friend. And then all of these bags are packaged up. They look exactly like the HelloFresh kits that you would order if you were going to be paying for the service. And then we box them all up and then we distribute them all over the community. We have a partnership with the Atlanta City Council to help distribute these meals. And so they identify where some of these meals are going before they happen. So we make sure that we're spreading the food as far as we can across the community. We also have some dedicated neighborhood groups that come and pick up these meals from us every Wednesday. And basically, yeah, it's really, really great if you can. It's usually about 20 to 25 volunteers and then a few second helping staff members. And we play music and it's really loud and it's really fun. And you get a whole lot of work done. You're always surprised at how much you get done in such a short amount of time, because you get to work with your team and because you kind of have like this one specific job that you're doing. I can't tell you how many corporate groups of just different organizations where people are used to being like on computers all day, or maybe they're used to being like on Zoom calls all day. And they feel so relieved it's just such a strange way to be like assigned to be putting 2 peppers in a bag for 3 hours. And it's just a really, really great, fun way to get involved with, helping the hungry people in the community directly around the Second Helpings warehouse, as well as, bonding with your fellow coworkers and staff and everything like that.
So that analogy, I know super well. I Love Lucy is my favorite show of all time. So I cannot tell you how excited I was when you used that analogy. I knew exactly what you're talking about. And I was like, feed it up, because that was what the little, you watched the show, HG. I know you know that episode. So those.
Just don't stuff peppers in your mouth, Elaine, when you're on the.
Oh, no.
It goes too fast.
But I would have enjoyed being on that episode. Like, that was just like the funnest thing. Okay. So we've got opportunities for people to volunteer in so many different ways. If people don't have time, but they love what you all are doing, they want to contribute in some other way, tell our listeners how they can do that, how they can learn more, how can they plug in, what else can they do? And if they even know of a source where there's food, maybe they run a grocery store, or I don't know if you're even collecting from like local farmers and urban farmers, if they have things to donate. So just give us the rundown about how people can also plug in that way.
Well, I think that to find out more information, probably the best thing to do is just go to our website, which is secondhelpingsatlanta.org. And there's links on there to volunteer, to donate, to find out more information about us generally. Right now, the process for acquiring food donors and acquiring more food is actually more of a on a professional level. So unfortunately, we can't accept donations from like individual people. This is a question that we get all of the time. That's something that's a little bit more apt for the mission of the Atlanta Community Food Bank, just because we're kind of operating on like a little bit of a larger scale. So we usually can't take something as a small donation. We're usually looking for larger donations that are coming from our food donors. I think the other way that people can contribute is by, if they don't have time to volunteer, telling their friends, telling people that they know, who have time to volunteer about the organization is always really helpful. I think that word of mouth is one of the most like powerful ways for us to get volunteers, and like honestly gives us the best volunteers because they have heard from a friend or a neighbor or somebody who's close to them in their community about volunteering and about Second Helpings Atlanta. There's also an option to donate. We do a lot of really, really good things with the money that we receive. I am not a development person, so I don't know all of the numbers super specifically, but I do know that we rescued 3.6 million pounds of food last year from our food donors and taking it to our partner agencies. And we wouldn't be able to do that without our volunteers, but also without our financial donors, because since we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, all of the money that we're receiving is from individual donors or from corporate donors. And so to keep the organization alive, we still, we do need those donations. They're always really, really helpful. From a volunteer perspective, I think that, even if you are somebody who has a really, really limited time schedule, I think that trying out a food rescue route and seeing if it works within your schedule is always worth it. I have volunteer orientations twice a week. So there's always an opportunity just to like pop onto an orientation and like get oriented. And even if you don't feel like it's like the perfect opportunity for you, I think that doing one food rescue route is still better than doing no food rescue routes is something I like to say. I think sometimes volunteers, especially if they're people who are like working, people who have kids, people who really don't have a lot of time, they feel bad when they like join our organization and they're only able to do like 1 or 2 routes a year. But like doing 1 or 2 routes a year is still, doing 1 or 2 routes a year. And like in this economic situation that we're all in, I understand that not everybody has the financial ability to give their gas to Second Helpings. They might not have the financial ability to give their time to Second Helpings or their money or anything like that, but anything that you can do helps the people in your community. I would also say that beyond the mission of Second Helpings, just in the community more broadly, there's a bunch of things that you can do. Free 99 Fridge is a really great organization that has stations around Atlanta where people can drop off those smaller individual size donations, and then people just know where the fridges are and they can come and take stuff out free. There's no restrictions, there's no signing up, there's no barriers of any kind. And that's a really, really great organization. And I also think that, a lot of our agencies are serving unhoused folks or people who are experiencing moments of houselessness. So whatever you can do when you see people who are unhoused, who are asking you for services, whatever you can do to meet or provide services for them is always really, really appreciated. As we all watched the pandemic happen and we watched inflation go up and COVID kind of still sticking with us, people in these really vulnerable situations are still in these very vulnerable situations. And a lot of times they're getting worse. And so whatever you can do to advocate for people who are unhoused, or whatever you can do for people who are working low-level jobs to be paid more, is always going to end up helping that larger mission of food insecurity. Because once we, none of us are going to be free until we all are. So just giving what you can to the people who are around you and investing in your community is always a arm reach part of the Second Helpings mission if you don't have the exact money or time to donate to us specifically.
Great. Well, yeah. HD, you've given us a lot to unpack in lots of many ways that people can plug in. So the website address is secondhelpingsatlanta.org, right?
Yes. And then if you want to volunteer, you just have to go to Second Helpings Atlanta /volunteer. Just for people listening, there's a little bit of a volunteer process. So what you'll do is you'll go to that page that says volunteer, you'll scroll down and it says like sign up to rescue food or something like that. You'll fill out that form and then you'll complete a volunteer orientation. Like I said, those are twice a week, online, really easy to do, and they're just with me. And then as soon as you're done through that process, you can go and look at all of our routes. Like I said before, with the 90-minute model, some of our routes do take 90 minutes, but some of them also take 30 minutes. Some of them take 45. Like you kind of just have to look and see how far things are away from you. And maybe if you happen to live really close to partner agencies and food donors, they might actually take even shorter. So anything that you guys can do to like get involved and people to get involved. And even if you just get oriented just to look at our routes, they are updated a decent amount. So you never know, something might pop up that's a little bit easier for you to complete in those limited schedules.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and updating us all. Everybody, there is something that you can do no matter, even if you're just telling the story about second helpings. We appreciate you doing that. And thank you, HG, and to the rest of the team for all of the work that you're doing in the community. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.